Aquaman The Lost Kingdom just broke the curse. With a budget of over $200 million, it somehow managed to gross over $410 million on the worldwide box office, finally breaking even. And if that sounds unimpressive, as it probably is to a lot of people, then you also probably don't know the absolute outrage that's been going on at DCEU box office. If there's one thing the DCEU have been quite consistent with in the past year, it's just making record-breaking flops. This was once a mighty franchise that had not one but several big screen hits, ranging from Man of Steel's $667 million gross to the first Aquaman's $1.1 billion box office smash. Lately though, things have not been so rosy for the DCEU, and it's easy to see why. Apart from terrible marketing and horrid scripts, the DCEU has suffered from a slew of other things. Director changes, cliched stories, inconsistency within the verse in the first place. Add that to the fact that reputation has a lot of impact when it comes to movie releases, and it finally makes sense why there's this downward spiral just plaguing the DCEU charts. Long story short, the DCEU has suffered from an utter lack of response from both critics and its audience, that even sequels to box office hits like Wonder Woman were nowhere near their first movie. People have started caring less and less about the DCEU and superhero movies in general, but that's a story for another day. Why then was Aquaman 2 able to rise above the heap of garbage it was buried under? Well, it's rather simple, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. At the end of this video, I'm also going to be rating it on a scale from 1 to 10, so stick around to find out why I placed this movie. If you're new to this channel, do well to like this video and subscribe, as you'll be helping this channel a whole lot. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Probably the biggest reason this movie was well received is something I like to call the brilliant actor effect. Now, if you've watched any of Jason Momoa's movies, it's not hard to see why he's a fan favorite. He is straight up a brilliant actor. He brings charisma and character to any role he plays, and it really shows. It's gonna be difficult to watch any movie he stars in and not immediately notice his presence. Take for example Fast X. Jason Momoa immediately captured my attention as the main baddie of the film, and gave extraordinary depth to a character that would otherwise be pretty bland, really. Coupled with the fact that he's just naturally a fan favorite in movies, and it's not that surprising that a lot of people would go out to see him. And as we probably already know, actors can either make or break a movie. And by make or break, I mean they can either completely obliterate any hope that movie has for success, or they can make it a blockbuster. And believe me when I say that, cause there are so many examples. An actor's ruining the movie, look no further than within the franchise itself. When an actor was charged with several crimes of sexual assault, burglary, and larceny, let's just say it had less than a positive effect in the movie they starred in. Said movie went on to become the biggest flop of last year. And an actor is carrying the movie, we have Harley Quinn, who stood out so much in the first installment of Suicide Squad that she got a whole spin-off movie to herself. A movie which, by the way, had to be renamed after her character, just to attract more fans to watch it. And this is huge because you rarely see movie studios change the title of a movie after its release. It's a 1 out of 20 likelihood, not that much. Another glaring example would have to be Dune Part 1. With the moviegoers vocally disappointed Zendaya wasn't even in it as much as they'd like. So you can pretty much see the impact an actor can exert on a film. And yes, I know the DCEU does not suffer for lack of great actors. That would be a gross myth. However, it's not only about Momoa's acting chops, it's also about the character itself. Aquaman as a character is a very interesting one, and has been since the first installment. He's relatable, and his character isn't your average super powerful, super intelligent, heroic star of hope. He's pretty much your average guy that's being placed in a powerful yet precarious situation, and now he has to deal with it, without any idea how. He's also a family guy, which is really heartwarming, and they portrayed his family in a way that wasn't cringe or took away from the main focus of the movie, unlike some other mishaps I know. Aquaman also has this undeniable sense of responsibility, seen as though he's a literal king, and he can be really serious when the situation calls for it. It's easy to see why people love him, and really, what is there not to like about him? He's just an awesome character. And speaking of characters, that's another reason this movie did well. The characters had great screen presence, even the ones that got fewer screen time than we would have loved them to. And hey, we even got this guy from WandaVision. Of course the actors were great, but there was something in particular about the characters that just made them really interesting. The funny thing is, the story isn't even that great by any means, but the characters did have a lasting impression. and that is something that has not been common in recent DCEU. The characters in Blue Beetle were okay, I guess, miles better than the abomination that was witnessed in Shazam Fury of the Gods. Anyway, both their scripts were barf, but that's by the way. My point is, the DCEU hasn't produced the best characters lately. So seeing these guys in this movie was a breath of fresh air. Even the dynamics between them was interesting and actually comedic, most especially the dynamic between Aquaman and his brother Orm. These guys actually made me laugh a few times, and that is something that doesn't happen quite often, and by often I mean at all. Their chemistry was palpable and it wasn't as cringe as I'd expected it to be, considering their extenuating circumstances. Their scenes together just kinda worked, and a lot of this is still owed to Jason Momoa's unbridled skill in acting. I mean, any other person and it definitely had the potential to be awkward. Aquaman makes Orm the butt of a joke every other minute, and sometimes he doesn't even realize it. Like that time he made Orm believe that humans actually ate raw cockroaches. Now that was hilarious. I also liked how neither Aquaman nor Orm constantly brought up their history. When people go for this reconciliation trope, it's either A, the good guy doesn't shut up about what the bad guy did and it eventually leads them to do something stupid, or B, the bad guy wouldn't shut up about the good guy beating him the first time. Yeah, that would have been very cliche and tiring, and I'm glad the producers were wise enough to do the opposite. Another thing that made this movie stand out was the visuals, the cinematography, and even the setting. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like this is the best movie, visuals wise. It's just not true. The first Aquaman was just miles better, and it really set the standards high. That said, this movie does have good visuals. The underwater scenes especially were aesthetically pleasing and visually stunning. Now, I have seen the critical reviews concerning this movie's CGI, however, personally, they weren't that bad. I really find it hard to kind of notice bad CGI, but that's just me. Was it anywhere near as captivating as its first installment though? I don't think so, but it still held its ground nonetheless. There was even this bit where Dr. Shin nosebleeds due to the pressure of being several feet underwater, and I just liked the attention to detail on that. James Wan is undoubtedly an outstanding director, and if the first Aquaman didn't prove that, this one sure did. All that said, would I be lying if I said this was the best thing in cinema this December? Yes, I would be lying. Because this movie is nowhere near a masterpiece, believe me, it's not even close. As usual with DCEU movies, and Marvel movies to be honest, story read a bit too much kindergarten. Not to say the movie was meant for toddlers, it just seemed like a really children-targeted movie. And maybe it was, in fact, I'm sure it was. This has to be some kind of marketing strategy to attract a younger audience, cause let's be honest, you and I both know that's where the big bucks are. It was the holiday season, I mean what better way to get more ticket sales than to have kids trooping along with their parents into the cinema to watch your movie for Christmas. It's kinda genius. And that's why the audience score of 81% stands in stark contrast to the 34% critic rating. The audience, a large chunk of them being adolescents and millennials, didn't see anything wrong with this action-packed, visually stunning movie. The critics, however, now that's a different story entirely. They could see right through every witty one-liner in this movie right into the shallowness of the plot. Now, I'm not here to condemn anyone's cinematic movie preferences. Everyone has what they love. Art is generally subjective. What I am doing is just pointing out the obvious in this movie. And it really even makes more sense when you find out that Jason Momoa himself was one of the writers involved in the story. They obviously weren't aiming to appease critics or win the Oscars or something. They just wanted to make a good sequel to an already great movie that they thought their audience would love. And what do you know? It worked. Its audience obviously liked it. It even did well overseas, something the DCEU has been struggling to do for ages now, with China being its biggest market, grossing over $61 million there. Sure, it's not even remotely close to the $291 million gross back in 2018. But all things considered, it's still impressive. After a series of flop after flop, each one worse than the last, Aquaman somehow managed to break the curse that plagued the DCEU. Too bad it was kinda already too late for that. And that's probably why the movie didn't perform even better. Most people just didn't care anymore. I mean, with all the critical backlash on the DCEU, add that to the fact that this movie is a part of an already extinct franchise. I mean, if I wasn't a fan, I wouldn't be interested either. Hopefully though, James Gunn and Peter Safran are able to save the DCEU from their utterly dire straits. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Anyway, though this movie was good on its own, it isn't even close to its first part. I mean, the first part rules it in literally everything. The visuals, the story, the characters. I give that an 8.5 out of 10. But this is sadly just going to get a 6.3 from me, and it's that high just because I like the character Aquaman. What did you think of Aquaman The Lost Kingdom? Was it a good watch, a great watch, or straight up barf? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Thanks for watching. Jana.